I'm going to talk about a case of a cop killer from Ross County. If you have listened to most of the episodes that are on murders in Ohio, you will have heard me talk about Ross County before. Not about any case, but because that is where Ross Correctional and Chillicothe Correctional Institutions are located. Both prisons are in Chillicothe, which is in Ross County. Male death row inmates are housed at Chillicothe Correctional to wait for their sentence to be carried out. This is also a case that once you have a killer in jail waiting for trial, you must make sure to keep that killer in jail. Ross County is 2 counties north of the Kentucky state line and is south of Columbus. Ross County actually sits on the northern border of Pike County. Ross County is not like Frank talked about with Martin Smith Jr. This county has more hills and wooded areas. I'm going to talk about the city of Chillicothe. Chillicothe is a decent sized city, but not nearly as big as Columbus. On April 21st of 2005, the Chillicothe Police Department got a report of a car being stolen from a restaurant. I don't know how long it would take for the Chillicothe police to show up at the restaurant to take this report. I figure an officer might have been on the scene taking a report on the stolen vehicle when another call would come into the police department. 15 minutes after the call about a vehicle being stolen, the Chillicothe police got another call about an armed robbery at a gas station. The suspect had a mask on, so they couldn't tell who it was. But the vehicle that the robber was driving was the vehicle that had just got stolen from the restaurant. A Chillicothe police officer and his cruiser would catch up to the vehicle and a chase would begin. After being chased by the police for a few minutes, the suspect bailed out of the car and then took off on foot. The suspect was 34-year-old John Parsons from Chillicothe. John is a white male with dark hair and some facial hair. John has tattoos on the back of his neck, tattoo on his right shoulder and left leg. John is 5'10" and around 180 pounds. At some point after avoiding being arrested, John had gone to his mom's house. John would stay there till around 10 in the evening, and then John would leave his mom's house and start walking to his own place. Now, an off-duty Chillicothe police officer, Larry Cox, was having dinner with his parents. As Larry was leaving his parents' house, he noticed that John Parsons was out walking the streets. Larry would take off on foot chasing John Parsons. I do have a question here. How did Larry recognize John, and how did he know John was wanted? Had Larry dealt with John before this? Also, did Larry an off-duty police on him? John Parsons just did an armed robbery, so he would more than likely be armed unless he ditched his gun. I believe that Larry should have waited for backup. The foot chase would go into an alleyway near Chestnut and North High Street. This is where John would pull out a gun and shoot Larry Cox in the neck. John would once again get away from the police. Officer Larry Cox would die from his gunshot wound. I would like to know why John pulled the trigger on an off-duty police officer. This is where I have to ask again, did John know Larry Cox? Did Officer Cox ever arrest John Parsons? John had gone from being wanted for armed robbery and auto theft to be hunted down for the murder of a Chillicothe police officer. John was now facing capital murder charges. If caught in charge, John would face the death penalty. It would take several months and clues for the police to find and arrest John Parsons on July 10, 2005. John would be charged with capital murder, armed robbery, and auto theft. John would remain locked up while he waited for his day in court. Murder trials always seem to get delayed for some reason, over anything. This would be no different for John's trial. John was still being held in custody awaiting trial in early 2006. On July 29, 2006, John Parsons escaped from the Ross County Jail. It was John's last attempt for freedom. It is said that John had asked his mom for help, but before any escape plans could be made with her, police arrested John's mom. Even without John's mom's help, John had made it out of the Ross County Jail. Inmates, whether they are in the county or in prison, have a lot of time on their hands, and they can make some crazy things out of anything. So this is part of how John escaped from the Ross County Jail. I figured that he had gone out his second story window or something. This is why I think that John had made a rope out of bed sheets, newspapers, and toilet paper. I honestly don't know how someone would make a rope that way. Now, an inmate is not allowed to have any kind of rope in their cell, so there would have to be a place to hide this rope. John used a piece of metal from an air vent to carve out the mortar around a broken brick. He then stuffed the rope behind the wall, put the brick back, took toothpaste to replace the missing mortar. He then took blue and green Jolly Ranchers, mixed that with toothpaste, that way the color would match the walls. John's escape would actually be featured on a show called Breakouts. The TV show Breakouts was not the only TV show that John was featured on. He was also featured on America's Most Wanted twice. Then the FBI would put John Parsons on their list as the 484th most wanted fugitive that the FBI was looking for. That is when John would be featured for the third time on America's Most Wanted. A $100,000 reward would be put up for any tips that would lead to the arrest and conviction of John Parsons. There were a lot of reports made of people seeing John in heavily wooded areas in Chillicothe. John would go on the run for 3 months. He had to have gotten help from somebody. A man by the name of Orlando Crockett was arrested for aiding John. However, the charges were dropped. John's mom was charged with obstruction of justice. John Parsons at this time was wanted by law enforcement for unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, escape, capital murder, aggravated robbery, and grand theft auto. On October 19th of 2006, John Parsons would be arrested by the Ross County Tactical Assault Team without any problems. John was in a shack near the Chillicothe city limits. The arrest was made at 12:20 in the afternoon. John would be booked in the Ross County Jail, but transferred to Piketon Correctional Institution in Orient, Ohio, southwest of Columbus. John Parsons pled guilty in a Ross County court and got a life sentence without parole. Thank you for joining me for this episode. I am Bill Swafford, and this has been Murderers in Ohio. If you are interested in checking out another true crime podcast hosted by me, Bill Swafford, then please check out Cold Ohio on Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio, and wherever you get your podcast. Chillicothe, Ohio is where I talk all over Ohio for about 10 or 15 minutes, so it doesn't take up all your day. So please check out Chillicothe, Ohio on Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcast. We got the devil on the run in Ohio.